So when you say American, like what is American? So like they're pretty easily like American for like by definition, because America it has like cultures found everywhere, and like if you can eat in America, it's not American food, but like if it's from America, but we're not really eating food from America by definition, so Asian food is better than American food by culture. Me, I guess it's because I grew up eating Asian food. Like we'd always get Chinese takeout, even when we lived near like a McDonald's and other fast food restaurants. But sometimes I get a craving for like burgers. You know, it's really fast. Fries are great, so that's why I guess I don't strongly agree, but I tend to crave sushi and burgers.
I think Asian food is slightly better than American food because I just think it has more unique flavors. I really love spicy food, and I think there's a lot more spicy options. And I mean, American food, I mean, I don't know, I know this is just one part of it, but I get kind of tired of like hamburgers and hot dogs and all that type of stuff. I mean, it's good sometimes, but I don't know, I just think it has more interesting flavors.
This topic, Asians are stuck in an Asian bubble.
Think about it, for people, I think they like being around people they're comfortable with, so it's understandable if like Asians want to be around other Asians, because you know we have a lot of the same backgrounds, like, and we go through a lot of similar experiences, so that's something people might be comfortable with.
I'd say I somewhat disagree, just because I think, because also we're on like a huge campus, it makes sense how you kind of gravitate towards people who are similar to you, but also I know plenty of people, or at least in my circle, who are very, very open to drawing the parallels between other cultures, like whether it be Latino, Latinx culture, or Asian American culture, just things like that. So I think we are drawn to being able to share that with each other, but also care for our own culture. So I'm kind of in between.
But in terms of Asian people that came, like international students, they also have the language barrier as well. So it's more likely for them to hang out with people who speak their own native tongue. So kind of
we gravitate towards those that we share experiences in common with. I think oftentimes constantly staying in that circle leads to this like insensitivity towards other cultures and like judgment towards other cultures and reinforcements of stereotypes, and the only exposure that you end up getting to other cultures, whether that be other Asian American cultures or cultures outside of that, comes from like the news and like stereotypes that you hear instead of actually exploring that.
Asian people have it easier than other minorities.
The reason why I said somewhat agree is because I think that Asians are considered as like a model minority, and compared to like a lot of the other races, we're kind of on the better side, I guess. That's why it's not like we're not. Although there are like a lot of stereotypes in the world, and there's like a lot of prejudices against Asians and a lot of things like that, but I think that it's important to say like we are the model minority, and it's I think that we do get a better treatment.
Every group has them, but for us, what we face, I see a lot, is media representation. But for a lot of other groups, they face getting killed for their stereotypes. So,
just like any other minority, we all face our own struggles, our own prejudice. Like, do you guys forget about the Chinese Exclusion Act? You know, Chinese people weren't allowed to come to America. We weren't allowed to have jobs. You guys forget about Chinese railroads. We basically built America, but we're not recognized for that. And there's plenty of things that Chinese people in America has face prejudice and struggles for. And it's not to downplay, as she would say, it's not to downplay everyone else's. It's to recognize that and grow and understand everyone is different. Everyone has their own growth and their own things that they're struggling with. Just understanding that it's getting everyone to an equal playing field.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think I'm actually doing research on this topic about the model minority myth and why it's actually a myth. And Southeast Asians have some of the highest college dropout rates, as well as the highest high school diploma, not getting a high school diploma rate, as well as if you think about it, people are dying because South Asians oftentimes get
stereotyped as terrorists, and so many Sikh men and like other Muslim women get killed every day because they're stereotyped as like terrorists or like bad people or not American. So it's like important to reevaluate who you think of when you say the word Asian.
Asians are less politically involved than other minorities.
General from Asian community. However, I guess I would like to disagree by bringing up maybe there's just less of an opportunity and like a platform for Asian American community as well. And going back to like talking about like minority myth and like just like values from like the community in general, like so I'm speaking for myself, like I don't want to generalize for anyone, like knowing like Chinese American community, we do not like to get involved like with the police. Like if we get robbed, we don't want to call the police. If we get beat up while we're delivering food, we don't want to call the police. We go to the hospital and then we just carry on and move on, because a lot of the times like there are a lot of consequences you have to deal with when you're getting involved with political stuff. You have to explain where you're coming from. You might get discriminated against because you cannot speak fluently. You cannot speak English fluently, and there's just a lot of like connections, like networking. So yeah, I'm in the middle because I think that from what I've seen, like especially on this campus, there's a lot of like people from my community that wants to be involved, but there's just a lack of opportunity. Yeah.
I would say that I agree. Actually, I think that Asian Americans are not really involved in politics because it is a fact. In statistics, we actually don't vote as much as other groups. But, and like for example, I agree that we don't have enough resources, and sometimes like ballots don't have language, the translated language. But in this new ballot, there's actually translated. It's actually translated into 16 different languages, and Chinese is one of them. I know that, and I know my parents are still not going to vote. So it's just kind of a culture behind it. And in return, and like in terms of other things other than voting, I know that in Chicago at least, like people collect census, and there's this new thing where they also ask for citizenship in the census. And there's a whole conspiracy theory behind it. Like the reason why they ask that, and what census do is to see how many people are in one region of where you live. And based on how much people is in that region, the government will allocate that much money to make sure everyone is funded and everyone has the right amenities to live like well in the community. But the reason why they're asking people for their citizenship is to really scare minorities to not say that they have this many people, because a lot of us don't have citizenships here and we overstay our visa, and that's like one of their ways to make sure that we don't be involved in politics as much as we should.
I have wanted to be white at some point in my life.
School, even middle school, there were a bunch of factors that made me want to be white. So on the Chinese side of my family, I had to go to Chinese school every Sunday. I didn't like that. I wish I could have been home, just chilling, especially Easter. Oh, that was really. I wanted to go hunt for candy, but no, I had to go to Chinese school. I mean, looking back, I'm thankful for it, but at the time I wasn't. And even bringing food to school sometimes is awkward, because sometimes if you bring cultural food, people look at you, or something that's just not American food, people look at you weird. And from the Laos side of my family doesn't really like talking about their history, so how they got here. They're refugees, so I always thought it was something to be ashamed of. And I hated my identity for the longest, until about middle school, where I discovered Bruce Lee. So.
Stories like watered down version members. Like I was a gamer when I was 10, and like I moved to this town called it was so white. It was called like White Cop. Like it was like 99% like Caucasians. And like when I went to like elementary school, like we had this like pet like beetle, and then it died. And someone was like, "Hey, do you want to eat this?" And I was like, "No." And like also like when we went to like get ice cream, like my mom would try to order it, but she can't really speak English. So then I could hear a cashier going like, "Oh, like, you know what she says?" Like, "Oh, no, I don't know. Like she's an Asian." So like during those times, like especially when I was young, I think I wished like I was white, as in like I could fit in and like my family could fit in, and like also like I just wanted to like eat the same food as people did like at home. But I think now, especially coming to college and being part of like Asian American like association and like group of people, I think I kind of realized that I just grew up in a very extreme environment, and I didn't really like appreciate who I was like uniquely. So.
I don't disagree, so I want to share their thoughts at all.
Just briefly, I never really wanted to be white per se. I really appreciate the vibrancy of my culture, but there were certain aspects of, I think, like what is considered white culture that I wish my family had adopted. Like, for example, we have something called DST, so Dixie Standard Time, meaning we're late to everything, no matter what. It's just we run at a different time, or again, with like translations or things like that, or just like body image or perception of how we look and what types of like beauty standards are put in media. And things of that sort, and how we look, how we dress. So that was like a lot of some things that I thought about, but never per se I felt like I wanted to shift cultures completely.
12 years, and like a lot of times people are like, oh, were you born in Vietnam? I have to like stop myself because like, no, I'm not. But like it's kind of hard just because like as an American, like you receive American privileges, but like I feel like I'm Vietnamese with American privileges. As opposed to, like, I never really wanted to be anyone else. Like, I grew up in Argyle, and I like had people around me, and we were kind of the majority. Like, there were like 2 white kids at my school, and I was kind of like, whatever. Like, I went to high school, and then I went to Northside, so there was like a lot of diversity there. But even there, I didn't associate with like the Asian kids there. I kind of just like, which is who I am. Like, I'm very Vietnamese, but I don't really like click towards that kind of community, and so I don't wish to be something else because I'm like very proud of being Vietnamese.
It was really hard for me to identify as like Korean American because every time someone would come up to me, they'd be like, "Oh, are you just like Chinese or Japanese?" Those were the only 2 options that were ever given, and they were like they didn't really understand what Korean was or what Korean culture was, and there weren't many other Asian Americans for me to like go to and get that support. And so I know I struggled like a lot with understanding who I am as a person and just accepting that I am different from others. And I think it came around like middle school when I started doing like Korean drumming and Korean traditional dancing, when I finally realized like, oh, my culture is also really cool. Like the food that I eat is like really good too. Like I'd say as some of you, whenever I would take like Korean food to school, they kind of look at me and they're like, oh, like what's that? Like why does it smell like that? You know, like why aren't you just eating a sandwich or something? And so I know growing up like that was just really difficult. But now, like coming to college, especially to UIUC, where there's like a big diversity of Asian community, I feel more at home, like understanding of who I am.
So the next topic is, I want to raise my children differently from how my parents raised me.
I guess for me, I would kind of want to raise my kids similarly to how my parents raised me, because I think, at least with my household, we're not, like my parents aren't the stereotypical Asian parents. Like I think we're all very tight-knit, and it's been easy for me to express like emotions in front of them for the most part. Like, and we're all very open about saying I love you. If anything, like it's too much to the point where my little brother doesn't want to say it. And I guess like I think something I really am focused on is like I feel like it is very valuable for my kids, future kids, to like be bilingual, because at least for me, I felt like that has helped me in staying connected with the rest of my family, especially older generations, and I don't want my kids to miss out on that connection. So yeah.
I said I somewhat agree. So this was because like growing up in the Mongolian, my parents are both Mongolian. We all came from Mongolia together, and growing up, I think it was a good thing that I was able to help them translate. I was able to like go through every step with them and start from there, because that gave me a lot of responsibility, and a lot of the things that I do in college helped me. Like a lot of the things like I did then helped me in college. So I think that's a great thing that I picked up from my parents. But at the same time, I also like never got any like freedom. Honestly, it took me like months to like at least like I couldn't go to the school I wanted because it was too far, and I had to like come here because even coming here they took like 3 months to convince them like they don't give me like a lot of freedom. So like, for example, like throughout my like life, before coming to college, I probably went to the movie theater like 4 times in my life. I lived in the suburb of Chicago, but I went to like downtown like 3 times in my life, right? So I think it's like a little extreme for my parents. So I think that's like something that they need to like at least a little change. And of course, like things like I love you, or like things like I've never been told, I can't say to them because it just feels really awkward and we have a little distance. But at the same time, we do, like as a family, because we had to come here and like go through all the struggles together, we really like we did bond, and like it did help me with my life right now.
But in my case, my parents were very strict. Like if I was crying, my mom would tell me to shut the fuck up, or like when I was like in middle school and stuff, even when I wanted to hang out with my friends, my dad wouldn't let me. I couldn't even get the mail without him like yelling at me and freaking out that I'm gonna get kidnapped. And like I can't even look at a guy without like being slut shamed. So yeah, I'm not trying to be like that.
I sort of disagree because the house. Oh, sorry. Because like the household, I got shot. Sorry, I accidentally touched it. Sorry. The household that I grew up in was very, very kind. Like my parents are very welcoming. They like were very not the stereotypical family household. And also, I just want to say like the stereotype of Asian families. That's like a very big umbrella term to cover all Asian households, and I don't think that's true. Also, next. So my parents were very, very kind, right? Like they really taught me to appreciate who I am, appreciate the people around me, and be grateful for everything that, you know, like was given to me, right? I think like when I was younger, me and my little brother, we were forced to go to Chinese school, we were forced to do art school, and here and that, but then it's also like when you're a child, you're like, ew, gross, like why do I have to do this? But then when you're older, and when I am a parent, I would also force my child to do activities, right? Like you're not gonna sit at home. I want you to find something that you want to do. I want you to connect with your culture, right? Like I know you're gonna hate Chinese school, but you're gonna learn it, right? Also, like my parents are very, very open to what I want to do. They gave me a lot of freedom. They're like, oh, you want to go to this state? Go for it. You want to go to this place? Go for it. You want to go here? Go for it. As long as you let me know you're safe, right? And I want that connection with my child too. Like I talk to my parents about a lot of things. I trust them with a lot of things, right? I tell them my struggles, and they are here to understand and teach me along the way, right? Also, like my mom is very like not stereotypical either, like stereotypical, like blah, blah, blah. Like I also want that for my child as well, because like my mom's like, do what you want to do, right? Like you like art, you should be an art major. She told me to be an art major, right? Because I love art. But then like that's like also something I wanted to support my children with too. Like do what you like to do, pursue it. And then I always grew up with like values of appreciating family, appreciating where you come from, right? Like appreciate what's given to you. And I think that's what I want to teach my children as well, because they're the reason that I'm here. And my parents always like taught me like, look at all the sacrifices that your parents and the people before you, you know, gave you. And I also want to teach that to my children as well.
I want to say that my parents teach me the same thing. So like you can say that anybody's family teaches them like X, Y, and Z, like how to be grateful, how to appreciate your culture. Like everyone's parents are gonna do that, but like my parents, like my mom's a dragon mom. Like my dad is the same way, but it's kind of like the mannerism in which you do it as they're growing up. So like for me, my friends are always like, why aren't you like upset that they're not letting you go to the movies? Like I'm 14, like okay, I understand. Like I was never like upset at them because I understood the purpose and like the reason that they're doing what they're doing. It wasn't ever to punish me, but to teach me about how cruel the world is. Like you're not allowed to go out not because I don't trust you, but because I don't trust other people. And like there's different ways to like go about that, but I think for me, like I am who I am and as strong as I am because like my mom was very consistent with the way she taught me. Like she was very like, oh, you're gonna get what you want when you come of age. So like when you're 18, there are certain things that you start to understand, like relationships, things like that, but you have to focus on school. But she was never really restricting. Like I wasn't expected to be a doctor. Maybe my grandma expected that, but like my mom was always like, do whatever you want. Like I would never be able to blame you for something you can't do because that's your own ability that like I gave to you. So it's just more like how they present it to you while you grow up, I think.
As going out from aKDphi, it's the same way where like my mom kind of like teaches the morals and how to just be a better person for people around me and what so. But it's just I grew up. My family's an immigrant. My mom came here as an immigrant, so we didn't really have much resources. I grew up did not have the typical of like have your piano lesson, your violins. I never really able to because my mom would be working. So in that way, of course, it's like I always try to push myself to be like be a better parent for your kid, trying to strive for success so they could have the resources where like they want to try something out, they can, and not limited to what they want in that terms. And also in addition to that, because my mom's an immigrant, came here, she put a lot of pressure on me to able to learn stuff for her, like learning English. I was the one that's supposed to like pretty much learn how to fix most things in the household or like do paperwork, like find ways to get things done and also, and that's a lot of pressure for like someone who's like 11 or 12. And it's just like just wish that like in the future on I could let my kid to be a kid and have fun, to enjoy those childhood while they
Currently is. Any panelists?
I'll start. When I was coming into UIUC, I was really hopeful that I would meet more Asian Americans because I came from a school that was 85% white, 1% Asian. So I thought I'd find my space at UIUC, but not many people know what where Laos is, who all people are. So a lot of people just, when I go to RSOs, they don't know what I am or they care about the Chinese side over the Laos side. So I felt excluded.
I said somewhat agree. I think it's just me personally. I'm coming to UIUC as a freshman. I'm a junior now, and it's just been a really positive experience. I think it's just like with the people I'm surrounded with, it's just really positive for me. Right now I'm like shadow for AAA. I'm a intern for APAC. I'm a volunteer intern for MCO. Like all of these clubs are all very different. AAA is a very organized, very like big organization. APAC is very disorganized, but like, but the thing is like the people are still very dedicated. They're still really amazing people. And MCO is like for Mongolian, where there's not many of us, so there's very small, and it's just like we don't have that much support. But like at the same time, like me being involved in all of these like clubs and all like RSOs, just being like seeing how everything works, it's been a really positive experience. It's just because everyone in there like is trying really hard, it's amazing. And it's just really supportive of like when I came as a freshman. Of course, this may be different for like a lot of different people because we are all different individuals and how we see the world is different. So for me, like it's just been really positive, and I do agree. Like, of course, like not all like colleges or like it's not all gonna be like perfect. Not all RSOs are like perfect. So it's gonna be all like very different. For me, it's just been very positive.
Basically, one of the things that I wanted to address is the fact that we all come to these Asian organizations because we want to find a home. So whether your home is AAA, PSA, any Asian organization at all, the reason why we're here right now is because we found a community who supports us and like cherishes us for who we are. But what about those people who come to these, like to our meetings and to our events and who don't actually feel like they belong? I think like a big part of it is like we can't see what they feel. And so a big part of like what personally like AAA, we really pride ourselves on like accepting of all like races and all people. but we could be doing more as like a whole entire community to like accept everyone who actually comes and joins. Because the real thing is like we're not here to like be exclusive with our community and like our culture. We're here so people can come and learn more about us. And so I don't know, I really feel like a little more of like including the other, like whether it be majority or minority, we should really be spreading out to more of these groups just to try to see like if we can enact a positive change on like the community here.
My experience with the Asian American community and PSA and all of that, you know, I'm a freaking board member. Of course I have to love PSA. The next step, I feel like, is to continue challenging our community because, you know, we don't just have a roundtable discussion of like, how do we feel about, you know, how the white people think about our food and, you know, that whole experience about people looking at us weird for our food. That's probably step one, to talk about and address things like that. But the next step, I always think that you know, sometimes we lack, even in my own organization, is taking it and like addressing like how is our community perpetuating anti-black stereotypes or like what's the word, Islamophobic notions and things like that. It's taking and using our positions as like bigger organizations maybe and uplifting the smaller organizations and taking our position to, I don't know, talk about harder questions, because if we continue to deflect and ignore these problems, they're only going to get worse until the only people left for the problems to affect are us. So I just wanted to piggyback off of the last person's comments because the struggle is never done. We always have to keep fighting.